Welcome back. Up next, we have the Honorable Senator Eric Abetz. For those who may not know, Senator Abetz has been representing the great state of Tasmania since 1994. He has held a number of high-ranking positions in the government, including Leader of the Government in the Senate and Special Minister of State. He has been an outspoken critic of the Communist Party for years and recently has been supporting Hong Kong's fight for autonomy. Senator Abetz, thanks for joining us today.
It's a real privilege to be able to join with you today. Within every human being is the deep, ingrained, immovable desire for liberty and freedom. So deep is that desire for liberty and freedom that millions have sacrificed their lives so that others might enjoy liberty and freedom. And just as there is the deep desire for liberty and freedom, there are always those who are motivated by greed, by power, or a warped ideology seeking to deny the entitlement of human beings to that fundamental right. It therefore falls on every one of us who respects this right to freedom and liberty to advocate and defend those who face the prospect of that liberty being diminished or denied. And so today I want you all to know that I stand in solidarity with the Hong Kongers seeking the maintenance of freedom and liberty in Hong Kong. Not only is it your God-given birthright, it is a right enshrined in many an international treaty and declaration. What is even more, Hong Kongers were promised autonomy from the Chinese Communist dictatorship. The One Country, Two Systems Sino-British Joint Declaration, sanctioned by the United Nations, allows for the basic freedoms and liberties enjoyed by Hong Kongers for nigh on a century to be maintained. The extradition bill heralded the biggest crackdown on the freedom of Hong Kongers, an extradition bill which is rightly being opposed with active demonstrations in Hong Kong and strong statements of condemnation from world leaders, including our own Australian Foreign Minister. The crackdown and the extradition bill is a clear breach of the UN-sanctioned Sino-British Joint Declaration. The communist dictatorship of China's behaviour and unilateral actions are a breach of a written treaty, fundamental God-given human rights, and the genuine expectations of Hong Kongers. Therefore, all advocates for freedom and liberty need to stand shoulder to shoulder in solidarity with Hong Kongers in their just quest for the rights to which they are entitled as of right, but also pursuant to a written agreement. Hong Kongers can be assured of Australia's strong support as we enjoy a long history of mutual cooperation and support. Hong Kong and Australia were both British colonies from which we've inherited a sense of justice, liberty, rule of law, genuine democracy, and a comfortable standard of living. And while we may live some 5,000 kilometres apart and enjoy different racial and ethnic heritages, we are united in those qualities that transcend looks, locality, and latitude. We are united by decency, democracy, and a destiny which means we cannot and will not compromise our freedoms, because to do so would be to compromise our very being. The links between Australia and Hong Kong are bonded in beliefs, values, and heritage. But that doesn't make us blind to the mutual opportunities we had in developing closer trade bonds, which we established with the Australia-Hong Kong Free Trade Agreement some 15 months ago. Hong Kongers are now able to more affordably enjoy the high-quality seafood from my home state of Tasmania. Hong Kong is the 5th largest foreign investor in Australia, and for Australians, Hong Kong is the 11th largest destination for investment. In short, we share trade and investment along with values. But too often public discussion is about the economic interaction, people movements and tourism, Important though they be, and help to bring us even closer together, the fundamental bond is our uncompromising commitment to freedom and liberty. That's why I salute Hong Kongers for their struggle against tyranny and oppression. Having tasted freedom and liberty, Hong Kongers will never willingly submit to a dictatorship, and nor should they. Be assured of Australia's solidarity in this almighty fight, knowing that true peace, freedom and liberty will and must ultimately win. All strength to your arms as you hold up the umbrella for freedom. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator, for those really encouraging words. We've got some questions from our audience.
Yes.
Would you like to answer some?
Yes, of course, I'd be delighted.
Yeah. So we got a question from Keith. What do you think about this recent security law that was introduced in Hong Kong?
Well, the recent security laws which allow people to confront the possibility, if I recall correctly, about a 5-year prison sentence for not going along with a national anthem or saying things or interjecting during it. In a true democracy, even if you don't like what people are doing, you give them the freedom to do so. And so this is another example of the grab for power, breach of the Sino-British Joint Declaration. It is the ugliness on full display of a dictatorship that is not willing to countenance any dissent or any alternate point of view.
Thank you. Now we've got a question from Grum. It's a two-parter. When can we see the Magnitsky Law implemented in Australia, and what measures are likely to be used to sanction these offenders of this law?
A very good question. I have to be careful in what I say because I am currently sitting on the Human Rights Committee of the Joint Standing Committee of Foreign Affairs, Defence and Trade of the Parliament, looking at a Magnitsky-type law for Australia. That said, I can let you know that I did write to the Foreign Minister and Prime Minister before the hearing started, advocating for a Magnitsky-type law in Australia. And so I suppose my views are known, but I do have to be circumspect in relation to what I say, given that I'm sitting on the committee. My hunch is that there is bipartisan support for such legislation. There is a lot of consideration being given to which is the best type of law, and we've got the benefit of being able to look to the United States, United Kingdom, Canada, and some other countries to ascertain what might be the best approach. And for the Magnitsky-type laws to be effective, I believe that we need international agreement and cooperation, and therefore the closer our various bits and pieces of legislation can be, the better. And so that's what we're looking at. So I would hope that the committee will be able to make a recommendation to the government on a bipartisan basis, and then let's hope that we can have some legislation in 2021.
Thank you. We really appreciate your work on this human rights issue. Now we've got a question from Wing Lau. This is regarding the cyber attack recently on the Australian government. Will the Australian government demand any sort of apology or compensation from any attackers that if we find them?
One of the interesting aspects, and apart from serving on the Human Rights Subcommittee and being chair of the Foreign Affairs, Defence and Trade Committee of the Senate, I also sit on the Parliamentary Joint Committee of Intelligence and Security. And one thing we have been told on a regular basis is that when one suspects a government or a state actor of engaging in this sort of cyber attack, you do not mention that country's name. You keep them guessing as to whether you know or not. So the diplomatic advice is, along with the security advice, that you don't name the offender. So that's the current state of play, but I think there's been a lot of well-founded speculation as to who the offender might be.
All right, that's all the time we have now. Thank you so much for joining us today, Senator.
A real pleasure, and all strength to your arm and with the campaign, and be assured the Australian people are with the Hong Kongers. Good afternoon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Bye.